Okay, guys, so tell the truth. Do women scare you? When dealing with a modern woman, do you have fear? Are there legitimate fears that we men have? I was thinking about that. Welcome back to Resilient Man, by the way. And so let's talk about the fear that comes along with dealing with today's modern woman. Specifically with regards to approaching her initially, the dating process, of course, and then the entering into a relationship and what that entails. And then we'll get into once you're the risk that you take on when it comes to marriage and divorce and the fears I feel the legitimate fears that men have when dealing with today's modern woman. So, again, welcome to Resilient Man. It's good to have you here. If you would like and subscribe to my page, comment down below. I really want to hear what you think about this topic of fear. And when I say fear, first of all, I am not talking about you're a wimp, you're a pussy, anything like that. This is legitimate fear. I'm talking fear of you could get in trouble for approaching her. You could lose your job if you said the wrong thing at work. You know, many different things. Once you're married, there's the fear of is she going to cheat on you? Is she going to leave you? If she does divorce you, as you know, we live in a society and a culture where 80% of divorces these days are initiated and filed by women. And so that's a legitimate fear. Period. Then there's the divorce itself, which bring on a whole host of legitimate fears that men should and can and should have, such as losing their home, losing their children, paying exorbitant child support, paying alimony, losing your retirement or a good chunk of it. Parental alienation by your children's mother, and the fact that she may have already started turning your children against you, and especially after you have separated and divorced. These are legitimate fears. These are legitimate fears. So let's jump in. Let's start at the beginning here. So let's talk about the fear of approaching the modern woman. It's a shit show out there, guys. It really, really is. I like the description of it's like trying to find a needle in a needle stack, because you don't know if that attractive woman that you see in the grocery store or on the street or whatever the case might be, if you approach her, is she going to flip out? Is she going to cause a scene? I mean, I saw one YouTube video where this young woman had, I believe she was about 30, and she was coming through the grocery store parking lot. Apparently, some man was calling out to her, excuse me, excuse me. She posted this video stating that this crazy man was saying this to her. She started yelling at him in the parking lot, "Get away from me, do not approach me, do not approach me." And she literally says in the video she posted, "I don't know what he wanted, but I didn't want him coming near me." That's the crazy culture with some of these women that we live in right now. It's absolutely batshit crazy. So, what fears do you have when it comes to approaching women these days? Do you worry about that? Are you concerned about that? I know in my situation, I do not approach women that I do not know uh, out in the wild, shall we say, ever. At the gym, I completely ignore them. I don't want to, take the risk of being accused of being a creep or he's bothering me, anything. Personally, I'm there to work out. I work out and I walk out the door and I'm gone. I act like they're completely invisible. Then there's out, if I'm in the grocery store or shopping or whatever the case might be, I do not speak to women. I do not acknowledge women. I don't look at them. I don't do shit. I act like they're completely invisible. And it's due to the climate that the Me Too movement and the modern feminist attitudes, it's not worth it. It's just not worth the hassle. And so a lot of men, I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate, and please comment down below if you can relate to this. Finding a pleasant woman to date in our society is extremely hard. And I do have female friends who have said, man, guys do not approach anymore. And what's the problem? We want you to flirt with us. We want you to approach. And I said, you've done it to yourselves. You've done it to yourselves. And it's because of this. And so, what about you guys? Do you have these fears? How do you cope with this situation? How do you navigate it? Share some of your thoughts in the comments below. So, I would love to hear them. I'm sure the other guys watching would love to hear them as well. In my personal situation, I'm single. I would love to find a good woman for companionship and have that in my life, but I found it's extremely hard, and unless it happens organically and naturally, it's just, there's a lot of fear, let me call it legitimate fear. I don't want to be called a creep. I don't want to be accused of harassment. And so you really have to be careful in who you approach and how you go about it. So let's talk about the next situation, the marriage and divorce situation. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are either married or getting divorced or contemplating divorce or are divorced or whatever the case might be. And so you're kind of in that. Some of you are probably trying to figure out what to do. So let's take the marriage, the fear of marriage, the legitimate fear. Again, we live in a time where the risk to men when it comes to marriage is simply not worth the investment. We know, as I stated before, 80% of divorces are initiated and filed by women these days. We know that 90+% of the time, when you go to the so-called family court, it is corrupt, it is biased against men, against fathers, and you're going to lose. You're going to lose. It's a shame. I don't mean to sound pessimist or negative, but it's a fact. And I have my own stories that I will share on this Resilient Man channel of being shafted by the so-called family court system when it was obvious that they should have ruled in my favor, and I will explain that in my stories. But there's a legitimate fear there, because in a marital contract, the woman, in the majority of cases, due to no-fault divorce, due to our society and our culture that is female-focused and is biased against the man and the husband, she is going to be awarded the majority of cash-in prizes, shall we say, as she makes her exit stage left. And she can make that exit anytime she pleases, for any reason she pleases. Most states nowadays are no-fault divorce, and it's assumed that the woman should be entitled to all of the home and the child custody and child support and alimony and all these different things. And then there's also the fear, which this actually goes back to the dating or approaching process as well. You're scared to death she's going to accuse you of some type of abuse falsely, and automatically the woman is assumed to be believed. Oh, we must believe her because she said it. That can ruin you. That can really hurt a man. I mean, you can. There have been situations where the man has called the police because his wife was physically violent with him. The police came and they took him to jail because it was assumed, well, you're the guy, you must be the one who committed the physical abuse. So that's a reality in our society today, and it is a legitimate fear of most guys. But going back to the marriage, so you're in a marriage and now you realize it's not working, and at some point, I think a lot of us guys who while we were married or in our marriage, we realized, yeah, this train is going off a cliff at some point, and that's when the fear kicks in. The fear being, what is going to happen to me? What is she going to do to me? What she is supported and sanctioned by a corrupt and biased family court system that immediately is on her side. I mean, you just look at the numbers these days. I mean, 90+% of women, they win the majority of the home and they win the majority of the custody. It's automatically assumed that the mother is and should be the primary parent. Why? I don't know. I mean, she almost has to be a heroin-riddled drug addict, prostitute, and even then it might be even in question. So that's a legitimate fear of a lot of men is, I'm going to lose my children. I mean, you're going to, when I've run into men who were divorced and they tell me, I have 50-50 custody. I'm like, wow, that's impressive, because most men, you see them every Tuesday night and you get them every weekend, and then for holidays you switch holidays each year, and then you got a week or two in summer for vacation, and that's about the gist of your custody arrangement. And the so-called family courts, and our society for that matter, and a lot of times the mother herself, couldn't give a shit about you as a father and as a man, and they see no value in you. And so that also plays into this topic of fear in men. And so again, if you're a man who is married and you're living in fear, comment down below. Tell me what you think. How are you coping with this? How do you deal with this? If you're a man who is contemplating divorce and you know what's coming, with the family court system, I'm probably not going to win. She's going to be awarded all the cash and prizes. She's going to get the children. I'm going to probably be paying child support and possibly alimony, and then there's all the other shit that comes along with it. How are you dealing with this fear? How do you cope with it? And I also wanted to post this content here in Resilient Man because what you're feeling is understandable. It's legitimate. It's not, again, you're not a pussy. You're not weak. You're not a wimp. You are legitimately fearful of what may be taken away from you. And that's justified. It's real. It's real, and you really need to face it head on. So, let me know what you guys think. I will share with you this thought here. I was recently granted divorce, and throughout my marriage, I was scared. I was fearful. I was afraid, what is she going to do to me? How is she going to hurt me financially? How is she going to hurt me with my children? Am I going to see my kids more or as much as I would like to? What is she, even after you're divorced, what else is she going to do? Is she going to take me back to court? All these different things. But I was recently awarded divorce. And if you go back to my initial video, you can kind of get a feel for my story there. I was awarded divorce and I walked away completely scot-free. And the reason I wanted to do this specific topic today on fear and the legitimate fear that men have when it comes to relationships, marriage and divorce and such with women is because the fear is gone. The fear is gone. And so if you are resilient and take your time, get a good attorney, preferably a woman, quite frankly. My attorney was a guy, a former Marine. He did a kick-ass job, but preferably a woman. I think a lot of times works out a little better when it comes to that. But yeah, the fear is gone. I mean, in my personal situation, there were a couple main things that I was concerned about. One was our marital debt. She had hers, I had mine. And she tried to threaten and manipulate and bully. And I said, well, if you put our debts in a spreadsheet side by side, they'll pretty much be a wash. So I'm not that worried about that. But the other legitimate fear that I had was alimony. So in our case, we did not have children together. But as in most states, if your wife earns less than you do, a lot of times their attorney will encourage them to go after alimony. And I'll just share a quick story about that. So I counseled with a total of 3 attorneys to find my attorney. And the first 2 actually told me, okay, so you make X amount more than your wife, so you're probably going to be on the hook for alimony. Now, let me put this in perspective for you. She left the marriage. She walks in one day, says, I'm leaving you, I'm moving out. She did that. She moved out one weekend. She had rented another house and took all of our furniture, pretty much the whole house, moved to a new house. So as far as her quality of life, her standard of living, it was about the same or maybe even a little bit better, okay? I explained that to the attorneys and they said it doesn't matter. In our state, abandonment of the marriage has no relevance in court. If your wife has committed adultery, no bearing whatsoever, any of those things. So none of that matters. So so these were legitimate fears. And then I counseled with my third attorney, who the one that I ended up choosing. And he said, well, there's a lot he really knew his shit. So he was like, yeah, I think we can knock that one. We can bat that one away as well when we match up the finances, the finances and such. So, but anyways, it was a legitimate fear. I was concerned. This woman that I was married to leaves, abandons the marriage, takes the whole house, takes everything in the house, and I may owe her money? Are you effing kidding me? Some of you guys can relate to this. Some of you guys are like, oh my God, that's what I've been told. And it's crazy, but it's a legit. So what I'm saying is your fear is legitimate and what you feel is understandable. And I hope through channels like Resilient Man, I hope you come back. We're going to discuss many topics like this. But I hope it gave you some encouragement. I hope you read the comments down below. Guys, please comment down below, especially if you've got some encouragement or things of that nature, please like and subscribe to Resilient Man channel. And, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your feeling. Know that, but I'll leave you, again, I know I've said it many times in this video, your fear is legitimate. But if you stay resilient, if you focus on it, if you hit it head on, so as to speak, you will get through this. You will get through it. And the last thing I would say is know your worth, protect your peace.